And we are live. We're live, Marcus. Are we live, Eric? Is that what we are?
I think
We're
we're
live now. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to Firearms. Thank you for tuning in to the Firearms Radio Network. This is another exciting episode of the Black Powder Podcast. I am Michael White, aka MW for Liberty, joined as always by my melanated brother in arms, Mr. Marcus Matthews, currently the only real libertarian according to himself, and Eric Parker, Bold Liberty, out of Florida, here with us again. I think he's just going to be here all the time, so just get used to it. Okay, this is going to be the setup. That is my mandatory intro that I have to do to make sure that Firearms Radio Network is really happy. Also, we are sponsored tonight, as usual, by the one and only Common Arms Trade Company. Please visit commonarmstradecompany.com. Check them out. They're the one-stop shop for all things 2A. The other day, man, I noticed I posted something from Costco. Like, I was like, hey, man, these like survival kits they got at Costco are a bunch of bullshit. Like, don't buy these things. And Common Arms dropped in my comments. And he's like, hey, man, we got real MREs here. So he's got that kind of stuff, too. So check out Common Arms Trade Company. Use promo code BLACKPOWDER for 10% off any order over $100. That helps us. That helps him. That helps y'all. We'd appreciate it. And I think we're going to have another sponsor later, but we'll get into that in a second. Is that right?
Yeah.
That we're going to do here? All right, cool. So that's my mandatory intro. So I'm done. Y'all just take it over. I'm going to go hang out outside or something.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in, whether you're watching, listening, or actually looking at me in particular as the only melanated person on this. I can't really say that because I was commenting in the pregame on Arkansas versus Florida and the sunlight apparently that you guys get there.
Yeah, we get a pretty good amount. We don't get as much as Florida, though. I mean, like,
there's a, and I need to expand on that horizon eventually. I'll elaborate on that at a later date. But Eric, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Aren't you in California? Y'all don't get no sunshine there?
Oh yeah, we get more than enough. It was like 93 degrees here today. I'm like, bro,
Marcus is actually a white guy, right? Like, he's just outside all the time. Like, he's got the savage skin going on. You know,
my wife just called me a black neck.
We are on to, that's a good term. Yeah. We wouldn't get in trouble for using that one anywhere, would we? Yeah,
we might.
I give you guys one pass. You have one opportunity to say blackneck in this podcast at some point in time, as long as it's witty. And I will pass that along to the black community that this was a sanctioned event.
This is a sanctioned event.
We need our certificate.
I
need like an official pass on that one, man.
This is a verbal contract at this point, and it's more than legal in the court of law. So
there we go, man. There we go. Yeah. So again, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We got a lot to talk about as always. I think we kind of wanted to get into like maybe touch back on some Israel stuff again real quick. Is that what we were going to do kind of first to start off here?
Yeah. And I had one point to bring up about that.
All right.
So yesterday I heard Israel ask for $10 billion of aid. Today, I heard the U.S. government is working on $100 billion in aid. And to that point, I want to talk about Washington spending, because either side likes to say whoever's in charge spends too much money.
Yep, they do.
And they're both right.
That's
because
correct.
It's they spend on what they want to spend on. They don't spend based on actual reality. They spend on what their base thinks they want them to spend money on.
I don't even think that they listen to their base. I think the base listens to them.
That's true.
Mean, I see this. I've seen more hero worship and just like acceptance of politicians in the past 20 years than I thought would. Like, I remember when I was a kid thinking, hey, if you screwed something up, like you were going to lose people. It seems like now people are like, oh, this person can do no wrong. This is my guy. We're doing this because of this. People are so entrenched. I mean, Eric, you're down in Florida. You kind of know, like from a nationwide perspective, again, we've talked about this, that DeSantis isn't the liberty candidate that some people think that he is. But I mean, to hear still some people say it on social media, like he's the end all be all, like he's the greatest thing ever.
He was in Congress and his voting record wasn't that great. I think it was like 60% constitutional or something. You know what I mean? He probably got a B- C+ liberty score. Go look it up. I mean, his voting record when he was in Congress was a typical politician, and then he won his first governor race by a very slim margin.
Very small.
Really?
Yeah.
And he wasn't like he wasn't trending with the grassroots or the establishment or Liberty folks until he reopened Florida. So let me remind you, he had to close the state in order to reopen it. So
my
you know what I mean? Like,
my dad is now retired, but my dad worked for a TV station for like 40 years in Shreveport, and he shot commercials, like local commercials, and he shot a furniture store. I think it was called New York Furniture, New York Fine Furniture. It was in Shreveport, Louisiana, and they were on, like, everything had a commercial of them, and they would always say, "We don't mark it up to mark it down and call it a sale." And that was like their tagline. And that's like that. It's like, we don't shut it down to open it up and call it freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Yeah, Ron DeSantis just chartered a flight from Israel to bring home Americans at the cost of $4 million for the taxpayers of Florida.
Is Florida paying that, or is it coming out of his campaign?
No.
Or okay,
it was the state of Florida. It was their action.
I mean,
I mean, that's a great political move, political stunt. Waste our,
I could
not
see
waste.
that.
I'm going to say it's a waste, but spend our taxpayer dollars here. You know, I'm saying,
I mean,
for
are they
him,
Floridians?
just
Are
to
these
get some
people coming
brownie
back?
points
These
for his
Floridians?
national race.
These are just Americans, people who hold American passports, because that's one thing about this Israeli Palestinian thing. There's people on both sides that hold U.S. passports.
There's a lot of dual citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
if not all of them, I would say 98% of them.
It's a similar situation with Poland too. A lot of Polish people have dual citizenship apparently, and so, like, you'll say, "Oh, 12 American citizens." Well, they really have been living there. If they were anywhere else, they wouldn't be considered one. I mean, it's a technicality. I get it, but
when they're in Israel, they're considered Israelis. But in situations like this, they're considered Americans.
Man, that's the way to get it, dude.
There was actually a local church here. It was in Fernandina, which is like 30 minutes from me, that they were on a church trip whenever all this stuff kicked off. Like I think it was like First Baptist Church of Fernandina or whatever. So they were like, flights were canceled. Obviously, I wouldn't say, I don't know if they were in direct harm's way, but they were definitely stuck over there and couldn't get back. You know what I mean?
More than likely, because they didn't target Jerusalem in their initial terrorist attack. And most people, when they go to visit Israel, they go to Jerusalem. They're not going to a kibbutz in southern Israel, because literally, that's worse than the sticks in Appalachia, the area that you're talking about, because the only reason it's
dude, don't be hating on Appalachia here. Or
Have
Appalachia,
you ever heard of this?
Hey, now what? Just stop for a second, Marcus.
And Billy, my bad. I just want to shout out the Appalachian podcast. Those dudes are awesome.
I still get confused on how to say it. Is it
Appalachian?
Appalachian. Okay. Hey, I was corrected like 3 times when we did that podcast, and I'm like, why can't I remember? I don't know.
Appalachia or Sha?
I don't know. We got to get him back on. See, I've already forgotten.
Another dual episode soon.
Yeah, we have to have him back on. Those are good guys. But man, I don't know, dude. I think, like, I'm kind of the opinion that we waste a lot of tax dollars on a bunch of dumb shit. That, like, if it's about getting people back here, I mean,
that one.
Hey, man, I'm fine with it. It wouldn't irritate me that bad,
that should be
that one. Kind of, I'm okay with that one.
Yeah.
My whole thing about that is that's not a states' rights issue. That's a, I don't want to say a political stunt, because the moral is right where it needs to be. It's getting people back, but I don't think he would have arranged that situation
had it not been an election year, right?
Exactly.
You always have to wonder. You always have to wonder that. But yeah, I mean,
and then that comes back around to the spending, because they will spend the money when they think it's advantageous for them to do so. And this is definitely,
I was looking at some stuff like last week, and I do a lot of different, trend forecasting in other industries. And I was like, hey man, let me look at, nationwide finances again. And I should actually send you some spreadsheets that you could pull up, but they might be a little boring. But if you kind of trend out, like if you assume basically a 25 basis point increase in, the Fed funds rate kind of every other quarter, essentially, and you kind of add in some COLA increases based off that onto Social Security, and you project federal revenues kind of flatlining on a percentage basis, growing where they kind of are, there's a possibility that by like 2031, fiscal year 2031, Americans are spending 50% of all federal revenues on just interest on the debt alone. That's just it, 50%. And so I tried to make this point to some people today, and I was kind of successful because I told my radio buddy, and he made it on his show today, that like, ultimately speaking, no matter what you want the government to be, whether you're like one of these progressives that think it's a cradle to grave, it should do everything for everybody, or you're kind of a neocon and you want to have like, conservative spending at home, but you want to take over the world or whatever else. Ultimately, we're going to be limited either way. Like, we're going to we run to a place where this is just not sustainable.
Okay. My question, because I honestly don't know. The military budget is roughly 50%, and it's discretional spending. Now, how does that interact?
Yeah, it's considered discretionary spending, and so you have non-discretionary, mandatory spending, which is Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and then of course you have discretionary spending, and the vast majority of that is defense. And so you could right now, Marcus, you could get rid of every single federal program except for defense, and you'd still run about a $600 billion deficit, give or take, depending on how the rates end up going. And so, but imagine like, what kind of future does like the average, 30-year-old have in their golden years if 50% of revenues are going to just the interest on the credit card? And still that's not enough. Like, I mean, like imagine you get paid $1,500 this week and you come home and you got to pay $750 on interest alone. Yeah. And then next week, $750 alone. And then you're paying that credit, and then you're still racking up new charges at the end of the week and adding to it. I mean, we're getting to this literally is, there's a lot of people out there, I understand, who are like, hey, the American ideal is that we should go and take care of people, right?
Right.
Like, you have that's a big thing that you hear a lot from Democrats and Republicans. You hear that from. And, even some libertarians. I mean, there's some libertarians that are very much like that right now, too. But I think we've kind of blown that opportunity. Like it, love it, hate it. I mean, we let the previous generation run up $33 trillion in debt to try to do this. And then now we're at another place. And we're like, hey, look, I mean, it's just, like I said, the government will end up being limited one way or the other. And I think it's going to end up being limited not on our terms, but on some financial terms we don't really like.
Right. Okay. So one thing that struck me, and I was thinking about this, I'm pro-military. I think we need to have a strong military. But right now, the United States is on the precipice of having 12 carrier groups. Right now, 11 active.
I heard they're sending Reagan over to Taiwan, the USS Reagan.
Yeah. So one carrier
group, bad mamma jamma too, by the way, dude. It's like 36 acres to kick your fucking door in. Like, I mean, yeah,
4 acres
parked off of your beach, man.
Gerald Ford is the beast. But one U.S. carrier has more aircraft on it than 85% of the world's air forces.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
and with that being said, how can one maintain such a behemoth of a military? And I think we should have the capabilities to enact conflict. I don't think there'll be another. I don't think a world war is in our near future, and I'll tell you why. Because you can't have a world war where the United States fights China, because you can't send cargo ships one way and cruise missiles the other way.
That's Eric's point. Yeah.
Yep.
The thing with Russia has been kind of exposed as not the military force, but they have nuclear weapons, so they must be respected and they can do damage.
Right.
Who else is there that can bring the world to the brink of multi-country wars? Because it's not North Korea or Iran either.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the neocon argument for kind of American hegemony in the world has essentially been that, like, it's sort of a holdover from the Cold War, which is this idea that there is a constant sort of entropy in the system. That like without American presence, things will get worse. And that's sort of been the idea. That was the idea of the 70s and 80s. And then, in the 90s, we had it happen where we just, the American public got sold on this idea of very quick war. Yeah. I mean, like I was 10 years old when Kuwait kicked off, the first one. And we were in and out in like a week, And I think that the American public began to think, hey, we're so good.
Yeah.
And they use that impetus to sell us on the next 20 years. Like, so when 9/11 happened, I remember like people. So Eric, you're roughly my age, and you did serve, and we'll talk about that too. But I remember like guys, joining the military, and they were like, I was like, hey man, like, you might get sent over here, and they were like, dude, man, for like 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
they were like, we're gonna be in and out, man, like, and famous last words, right? Like, I mean, so we did 20 years there, and we're at a very weird place now where that you have a really split in the American people, where people are very either completely opposed to foreign inventions and wars, even people that have voted neocon or Republican their whole life or whatever, and you have people that are very much holding on to that old idea and maybe even newly embracing it because they think it's just like, we have to do this. But like I said, I mean, the facts are the facts. I mean, I tweeted this earlier today, like, if you don't want to help people that need help, you don't have a heart. But if you don't understand that that's going to cost money, you don't have a brain.
Mm-hmm. So to clarify, I joined the Army Reserves right out of high school, 2006. I was 18 for like.
Did you get that V6 Camaro? Tell me you got a V6 Camaro.
Well, I got it. I got a $15,000 sign-on bonus to join the Army Reserves as a military police officer, and I will say the most realistic Army Reserves movie is In the Army Now with Pauly Shore for about
hilarious
right up until they rescue a special forces dude. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty genuinely honest up until that point.
Dude, weren't they like in water? Like wasn't that their
water
MOS?
Purification. So they
water purification.
Stuff pops off in the Middle East. That's what people got to drink, water. So and like that's what I'm saying is, and like the recruiters in the beginning, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. How bad can it be? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's exactly what we were sold.
Dude, they gave the finesse to you, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, like realistically, our recruiter, because we knew what was going on. It was 2006.
Yeah, you're 3 years in the conflict
war started 2003. Is that when Iraq War started?
Roughly, yeah.
We knew we were going to end up getting deployed. We were just poor, lower middle class. Grew up in a double wide. Neither of our parents went to college. We didn't have a path or know. All we knew was our parents like, you got to go to college. You got to go to college.
Right.
And well, how am I going to pay for it? I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I feel like, that's who the military or the recruiters, they prey on the most. You know what I mean? The poor people, regardless of, race or whatever, most of the people are lower middle class. They don't have, they feel like they don't have any other option. Like, I don't know how.
And this can be like,
do you remember your senior year of high school and not know?
Dude.
You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Man, I was so damn stupid. And so I'm glad that we look. The military can be a great career, and a lot of people have made their lives a lot better. It obviously benefited you in the long run. It's given you some skill sets and a resume and things like that. I'm not here to knock that, but I think that like the idea that we can do everything and still take care of domestic affairs, I personally believe the empirical evidence has proven that false. I mean, we have 33 trillion reasons that prove we can't do both.
Yeah,
we can't. We can't be the policeman of the world. I mean, and that's the thing is, like, we don't even now. Our federal government doesn't even need our military to go over and fight the wars. We're fighting 2 proxy wars right now at the same time, basically. They're still going to spend the money on the military-industrial complex, even if it's not our own military doing the fighting. Which, as a veteran, like I'm not that would have.
Well, you remember? Well, maybe you don't. But
I don't want to get in a hot war with another country. Right
in the
now,
90s, technology and military, technology really began to take off. For like another level began to develop. Like you had the Tomahawk cruise missile. You had stealth really coming to the forefront. And there was a lot of talk in Congress about like, hey, we need to make sure that our defense contractors aren't selling this stuff everywhere else. And then right around 2000, we go, well, the Saudis, they got some oil. And so, hey, man, let's sell them some stuff. And that kind of opened the floodgates for the fact that like Raytheon's like, so you mean I can sell this stuff everywhere? And so suddenly, it's no coincidence that American-owned defense interest is now by proxy used to support conflicts. and of course taxpayer subsidies, and then we were going to provide, you know, logistical aid, which is keyword for I think we're funneling some money through somewhere. You know what I mean? That's like what that word is. And I mean, we can get to a situation where I believe we could have a domestic-based military and a domestic-based defense approach, and with a strong Navy and, you know, a handful of submarines, you can pretty much put your presence anywhere in the world very quickly if you need to. But you probably won't ever have to, you know. And we could through attrition, we could close these bases, we could lease them out to other people, we could do whatever, and we could have, like, for instance, when you were how many years were you overseas?
I did 6. Was supposed to be a 9-month deployment to Iraq, ended up being 6 months, and then I did 9 months in Guantanamo Bay. I did a 1-month training exercise in Italy and a 1-month training in, well, that's not overseas, but
so maybe possibly 18 months altogether where you weren't in country, maybe 18 months total, right?
Yeah, probably total 2 years at the most.
2 years at the most. Right. So I mean, just think about the impact that it could have too in the American economy if the American service member lived in America, worked in America, bought products in America, went to, you know, the convenience store in America. You know, imagine what that would look like. And so I think you could have, I think recruiting numbers would be through the roof. And you know, people talk about, hey, like, you know, the deprecation of the youth, right? Like that's one thing that old people always like to say. The young people today aren't as good as the old, you know, the old young people were. And there's actually some empirical evidence for that too, like the fact that risk taking is down amongst teenagers. But you know, there's always this idea tossed about around mandatory military service, and I hate that idea, by the way. I think that you would have increased voluntary military service from a lot of people if they could do a year and it would be stateside. And they probably would get some discipline, and they would probably get, you know, they would understand how the economy maybe really works, and they would see the process of government. Because one thing I know about people that are my friends who are veterans, there's not a single one of them that thinks the government should be in charge of anything. Like anything. Like they're like, I've seen this happen. I know the inefficiencies of it. You know, I mean, so that's
well,
I've been ranting on that.
There's a few things I want to say to Michael's points. One, they would boost the economy because the high interest rate auto loans would skyrocket.
Yes,
and his earlier point.
And the cheap engagement rings,
and
$1,000 engagement
title ponds and liquor stores and tattoo parlors.
All of that, small businesses.
Dude, Ed Hardy right now is lobbying for a domestic-based defense.
If you've ever been outside a military base, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, dude, right that front row. You know, I grew up in a military town. I know. Yeah.
And then Americans need to understand these simple facts. There will never be another D-Day. That is not happening in any way, shape, or form going forward at any point in human history going forward. There will never be a Quezon. Vietnam War, all of this posturing from the 20th century going into the early part of the 21st century is not there. Armored warfare is done. You big tank battles, that's never going to happen because Hamas took out what is considered a top 5 tank in the world with a drone in the early part of this conflict. That's why the Marines don't even build M1A1 Abrams tanks anymore because it's not feasible for the future. So the big conglomerates and their big politicians don't understand the fact that the warfare is changing to smaller and digital. And they want to keep that sacred cow fed. So they need these conflicts like what's going on they need the small scale stuff. And
they do.
With the small scale stuff,
that's a good point.
The countermeasures to the big armored warfare are in place right now. So they need to change the nature of the game a little bit. And that's going to be a struggle for them because of the deep rooted spending culture of our government.
Well, I tell you what, we love our military. You know, I had neighbors that were German. Well, she was a German. He actually was in the Air Force. He was a retired colonel in the Air Force, and she was from Germany. And they had gotten married when he was over there, and they moved over. And she would always say, like, "Why doesn't America have this, and why don't we have that?" And I'm like, "Well, Because we got all them fucking B-52s. That's why. Like, that's where we spend our money on. Everyone laughed at Caitlyn Jenner. So, let me see that again. What did Scientific say? From the Scientific Libertarian, everyone laughed at Caitlyn Jenner giving someone a Pepsi, but if that Pepsi is a metaphor for capitalism, it definitely works. I don't know if I'm following that one. Maybe Scientific can give us a clarification.
I don't think
Kenneth got a good one. If the National Blevins was Kenneth Blevins, if the National Guard was purely stateside focused on national defense and disaster relief, I probably would have signed up. Yeah, exactly. Right.
So, in a lot of go look up and support. Call your representatives about Defend the Guard.
Right.
Defend the Guard legislation. That's how we can make a difference. Is call your state legislatures and start beating down the door to pass Defend the Guard. And basically that'll keep, I guess, the federal government from being able to use state National Guard members in overseas wars unless there is a declaration of war by Congress.
By Congress, yes.
I have a question.
All right, Marcus.
How can they do that if they don't have a Speaker of the House to bring that to the floor?
Good segue.
Good segue. Yeah, that's a good. Well, that's why the Michael White plan is that we don't elect a speaker. We're better off if Congress doesn't. It seems like every time they pass something, things get worse.
They do have like a speaker pro tempore. I don't know the term, but like a temporary speaker, right?
Yes. Scientific has clarified his point. Opening trade with countries, capitalism, decreases the probability of war. No doubt, 100%. Because why make bombs? I mean, why make war when you can, make money?
Exactly.
Or see foreign breasts.
I just think Michael's point was we don't remember Caitlyn Jenner giving someone a Pepsi.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I don't remember Caitlyn Jenner.
Maybe it was a promo, a commercial. Do you remember the ad where they had like a protester giving a cop a Pepsi?
Yeah. No, or was it a Coca-Cola?
Coca-Cola, yeah.
It was a Coke. Yeah, they had those ads where like, the world's ending and he's like cracks a Coke open. Yeah. You know what? That's exactly what is he's talking about is, the way to assuage a lot of these issues is prosperity. We talked about that.
We said that.
Yeah, it's the reason why like Dubai is Dubai, and again, Libya is Libya. I mean, so like no one's taking vacations to Libya, right?
Yeah. What was the gas station? Did we say like open a Wawa in the Gaza Strip or
dude? I'm telling you, I mean, it would. I mean it. Like honestly, you open a few McDonald's and like some
In-N-Out for Marcus because we're all naming companies that aren't.
Dude, I love In-N-Out.
Thank you for saying that.
That's
I gotta say. I have a solution for Israel.
All right, what's that, Marcus?
Make the West Bank and Gaza Strip part of Israel, grant the Palestinians Israeli citizenship, and everybody can live in peace.
That's too common sense. And you're expecting people to get along, Marcus. That's the problem.
Well, I think conflict arises when other people build walls and say what you can and can't have.
Imagine that. You think government force might cause tension?
Yeah. Government is like we have a T-shirt that says "Government ruins everything."
They do.
And I defy anybody to tell me that government doesn't ruin anything. I am willing to put up my house if you could tell me one issue that government hasn't ruined.
Man, they've made money laundering efficient, Marcus.
Yeah.
And Yeah, you owe me a house, man.
I'm just saying, this just off the fuck of it, and this what has it been like? We're going on almost 2 weeks of the conflict, and $10 to $100 billion is on the table without a fucking iota of discussion.
Well, I mean and again, people like us knew that was always what was going to be announced at some point in time. There's still people that are like, oh my God, here's a good guy, here's a bad guy, we must do something. And people like us are like, you realize if there wasn't money to be made here, you would not be hearing about this.
Exactly.
Like at all. Like you would not be hearing about this. Like, for instance, and there's selective outrage with these problems. Like when Boko Haram, killed 1,000 people and generally mutilated 1,000 girls, there was zero American outrage, right? Because it didn't even make the news because there's no money to be made there. I mean, didn't at all. Scientific says if it was also the basic concept of a commercial Caitlyn Jenner was in, she stops a riot with a Pepsi. Okay, there we go. So same thing. Maybe that we could be Mandela affecting it.
That's what I mean. I was thinking there might have been some, like vague remembering, but I didn't remember it being Caitlyn Jenner.
I thought it was the daughter. To be honest with you, I sort of remember that.
Which one?
One of the ones that looks nothing like she was born. So that would be either one of them.
All of them.
The Jenner girls. Well, yeah, all of them don't look like. I think Courtney is the most least.
Dude, if I ever get on Jeopardy and like one of the categories is like the Kardashians or reality TV, like I'm losing the game. Like I just don't know.
I have a personal philosophy. I think Kim Kardashian might be solely responsible for the degradation of our society on what is acceptable, because she made a whole brand off illicit sex tape that was supposedly stolen. And from that brand, it's turned into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise.
Oh yeah, dude, they make bank. That's for sure. Yeah, that launched a career.
And all based on what? It's based on
booty.
Debauchery.
Yeah, that's right, Eric. Yes, the booty that launched 1,000 ships. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's the modern day Helen of Troy, Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, because everybody's think, I don't have to worry about showing my lady parts or anything else. And I'm not trying to sound like some FUD prude conservative, because
we're just dads of female. That's why. I tell people that
that's true.
You have daughters, you'll kind of become that way about something. You're like, you know what? I mean, I'm sure you've had this happen, Marcus, where it probably around 13 or 14, one morning, your kid's getting ready for school and they walk out and you go, you are not wearing that to school.
Oh, my daughter has that. She stresses out when we go buy dresses. I'm gonna tell you why. It was I think she was like 6 or 7, and my son plays baseball all the way up. Right now he's playing baseball in college, and we were in Arizona for a tournament, and we ended up at a Hooters.
Okay.
And my daughter looked at me and she says, "Dad, I'm not comfortable." And I looked at her and I said, "That's because you have to figure out how you value yourself." And
right, yeah, there you go. Good point.
And she took that to heart, and that's why when we go dress shopping when we went dress shopping for the prom and homecoming, I felt kind of bad because I knew she was stressing out because she knew I was not going to let her out of the house wearing a tube sock, as these girls, a nylon tube sock like these girls wear these days. She knew that it was out of the question. It had to be classy. She could look quote unquote sexy or whatever, but it had to have an element of class where she wasn't accentuating the physical rather than what she is. It's a mental, cerebral, beautiful.
I know all, and dress shopping with a daughter is stressful, man.
Stressful.
I got one good dress shopping story. We'll move on. My Addie was probably 13 or 14. I think she was 14. I think it was her freshman year in high school, and it was homecoming, which is like, in the fall, kind of late last minute. We're looking for a dress, and she's very particular, and it's very hard to shop for, and especially something like this. And we're going to all these dress shops, and I am hungry and I'm worn out. And at the time, I had a brand new Grand Sport Corvette C7. Last year they made the C7, or the second to last year they made the C7. Brand new, dude. I had it like a month. It had like 300 miles on the odometer. And we were coming out of a shopping center, and I was kind of pissed. I was like, God damn it! We'll find a fucking dress, And I'm coming out, and it's one of those shopping centers that went like this, and I hit the very bottom lip of the air dam, and messed it up. And I was like, dude, I was like, you know what? Whatever the next dress we see is, that's the one you're getting. It wasn't that bad. Yeah, it was Kendall Jenner. Okay, Scientific said it was Kendall Jenner. So anyway, moving on.
All right,
Speaker.
Speaker Eric wanted to talk about Speaker. Eric, you have some kind of, apparently there's a handful of Republicans out there that are getting a lot of crap right now, right? And you got one down there in Florida, apparently, right?
Look, I don't follow. I am a recovering former Republican. But I don't follow the party much unless I follow Thomas Massey and Rand Paul, and that's Chip Roy from Texas. I kind of like him, and that's really about it in the Republican Party. But a lot of people are getting flack for, I guess, voting for someone other than Jim Jordan for Speaker of the House. And I have looked up Jim Jordan's voting record, his scorecard, and he's pretty good as far as the Liberty scorecard.
What does it come up as?
I think it's like 80.
That's
80
pretty
something.
good.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's pretty good
for someone in Congress today. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he was one of the founding members of the current Freedom Caucus. As we all know, like the GOAT's Justin Amash was the founder of the Liberty Caucus, but I do think he was if the Freedom Caucus was around, he was a member of the Freedom Caucus, but not a founding member or anything. And I'm not sure the details there. All I'm saying is I don't get the feeling that Jim Jordan is a bad selection for us limited government types, but I also don't trust him enough to not get, I guess, corrupted as soon as he's in that position of power either.
Yeah.
Now, I was just saying here locally in the Jacksonville, Northeast Florida area, John Rutherford, he used to be my congressman. They redistricted. He's no longer anymore, but he's right next to us. He's as rhino as they come, establishment as they come, authoritarian, military-industrial complex.
He's not a rhino. He's just a Republican, Eric.
Yeah, he's just a Republican.
He's holds off as a Republican. He is the Republican. The Republican voters are the rhinos. He's just a Republican. Yeah.
So, but he's on that list of 20 that did not voted for someone else, and then he just put out a thing. It's like, I'm not budging. Well, he is getting drugged through the mud by Liberty folks, MAGA folks, just anti-establishment Republicans right now. And a good friend of mine, and we don't got to make this about me or my connections, but Mara Macy is going to be challenging him in the primary as a Republican. So
what's her name again?
Mara, M-A-R-A, Macy, M-A-C-I-E. She's got a website up, MaraMacyForCongress.com.
I would like to have her on. We can talk and we can pick her brain about Republican politics and filing in Florida. That'd be kind of an interesting conversation. Yeah, we had one here.
She helped me a lot with my campaign. So like that's what I'm saying is like and she's a Republican and she knew I was libertarian. You know what I mean? It was a partisan race here in Jacksonville. And there's an article by Florida Voice News where like 20 members of the local REC here in Jacksonville got called out for supporting me over a Republican candidate. And she was one of those people that they called out, and they tried, they doxed her husband, who's an active duty military member, like address and everything and money they gave it and all that. So yeah, she's stirring the pot in the Republican Party. So she's got my support.
Man, it's so when you tell stories like that, and the reason that, we first had you on, and the reason I think that we kind of became friends is you were running kind of the same time I was running the last race. And you had probably the only libertarian hit piece written about you in the mainstream media, that kind of at a decent level. Cause the Republicans were pissed. And of course, they did the standard libertarian attack where they don't really know libertarian policy. And so they say, oh, you're for open borders and you're for children doing meth, and all this kind of stuff. And that's the general attack. And so I can see them coming from a mile away. And yeah, they were you pissed some people off, but good for you, man. And I think that, here we kind of got the same thing happening here in Arkansas. The Republican Party of Arkansas is there's about 10 to 15% of the people that are just fucking fed up, that are just they're just tired of the status quo. It's gotten to the place where they just can no longer just keep doing this thing. And so, we have one congressman, I think it's Womack, that voted against Jordan. I want to say once or twice. I don't know. There's been how many votes. Same kind of thing. A lot of outrage, that kind of stuff. But dude, both of these guys are likely to win re-election. Let's be honest. Most of them are going to, and that's the frustrating part, right? Scientific says, I watched the Ford Party host a libertarian debate yesterday, and Lars surprised me a bit. His public speaking skills are definitely improving. Yeah, I think Lars is still the guy to watch. I think that is, that's just my opinion. I haven't met with Rechtenwald and I haven't met Josh. We were supposed to have Josh on tonight. Josh ended up, for other reasons couldn't make it, so we're going to have him on Monday. But I still think that I think Lars and Chase are going to end up. That's my opinion of where it's going to go at convention. Those are kind of two front runners. But again, Josh might change my mind. Rexenwald might change my mind. I'm not a delegate, so I can say that. These are just my opinions.
I don't want to not mention Mike Tremont because I love that guy too.
I
would be happy with any choice. I'm leaning towards a couple people that I see as POTUS and VP that I'd like to see. I'm not
speaking of like Speaker of the House, like that would be the best thing. Is like they should just find an independent speaker, right? Like go get Spike, go get Larry, go get get Ricky Dale Harrington from down here in Arkansas. Get somebody that's completely that's liberty minded, and they're going to play by the rules. They're not going to play favorites, and nobody can claim they're on one side or the other.
Justin Amash for speaker. I'm telling you, that's
no. It's me for speaker because
there you go.
Only real libertarian.
He's only real libertarian.
Everything that came across my
desk. Would you really want to live in DC though for part of the year, man?
I might be in Virginia.
So you could do Alexander. See, that was
Alexander is one of the most
or even like Maryland's right there. You know what I mean? But that's probably worse. Maryland, no. Definitely want to be in Virginia over Maryland.
Is like the anomaly of all states. It was like during the Civil War, it didn't know what it wanted to be, or free or a slave state, and I just think that's weird. Like West Virginia was like, man, fuck y'all, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? They just said off the line.
Nowadays, basically, Maryland is just people that work in DC but don't want to live there. You know what I mean?
Because Virginia is just wholly and absolutely the Virginia suburbs around Washington, DC, on par with New York, Los Angeles, Hawaii, as far as cost of living and whatnot. That is one of the most expensive areas you could ever imagine. So, yeah, Maryland is simply out of the question. I think crab cakes would be the only thing.
Well, crab cakes are legit. My in-laws live in Maryland, so that's the only reason why I've never been there before.
I love crab.
You know what I mean?
Well, I'm originally from Louisiana, so we ate a lot of crab too. But there's crab here in Arkansas, but I don't trust anything from the ocean this far inland.
Good crab. You gotta be careful about.
I've seen a truck full of oysters coming from like Morgan City when it's like 105 outside, and I'm like, even I thought that drive was too long. You ain't bringing those things up to Arkansas. That's not happening. Yeah.
Last Saturday, I had oysters here, oyster roast at my house, and they were from Virginia. So
what? Okay.
Did you get the invite? Did you get the invite?
I didn't
get an invite. Yeah, it's in the mail. You didn't get it?
I didn't get an invite. Well, that sounds cool, man. So you like them grilled? You like grilled oysters?
So I like them any way I can get them. We did them steamed because that's how a pot and a propane burner out back. You know what I mean? So we did them steamed this time, but I'll do them over fire. I'll do them on a half shell. I don't care.
I like them on a half shell, grilled, char grilled, butter, garlic. I'm not a huge raw oyster fan. Like I will eat them, like if I'm like, real hungry, but it's not like a go-to to me. It's the texture thing, Yeah. And then also in the back of my mind, the truth is that I'm always thinking about like when I was like a young kid on the Discovery Channel, I watched like this thing where like they're like, oysters are the filter feeders of the sea. Here we see a aquarium with oysters and we're going to pour a bunch of shit in it. And then like come back 30 minutes later and then the water's all clear and you're like, oh, the shit is in the oyster. And then so like, I'll be at like Acme on like Bourbon Street, like, oh hell, 8-year-old Michael coming back like, hey man, there's shit in that thing.
Well, let me ask you, as the resident black host, I have to get to seasonings.
All right.
We'll start off with Eric. What's your favorite seasoning as you steam your oysters? What's your seasoning? What do you do?
You want to know? All right, so I don't put anything in the pot. It's just water. Right. But whenever I put that thing, the best way to do it, usually I literally just take it straight off the shell and throw it in my mouth. Okay. But if I'm trying to church it up and get fancy, I'm going to do a saltine cracker. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do horseradish, like squeezable paste horseradish.
Okay.
And then I'm going to do Louisiana hot sauce.
Okay,
Louisiana. That's what I'm doing. So I add horseradish and hot sauce. You know what I mean?
Michael, what do you got on that?
So if you want to boil oysters in a brine, The reason why you might not want to do that is because it's not like doing another type of shellfish. If you boil oysters or steam them in a brine, you can like kind of they get kind of like rubbery on the very outside of them. That's why you don't kind of do that. So Eric is correct in that. Like you would just do it like that. That's the way to do it. But the only difference I'd have is as I'm a Tabasco guy when it comes to that, not Louisiana. Oddly enough,
lineage, bro.
Tabasco is from Louisiana. I know Louisiana is too, but Avery Island is from Louisiana. So we went there on a field trip one time. I've been to Avery Island. That was interesting. Common Arms Trade Company, it definitely shows the division in the parties because no one can agree on a good speaker. Hopefully, it's that more people are realizing that the party line isn't the loyalty they should have. You'd think so, Common Arms. We'd like to thank our sponsor for popping in again, Common Arms Trade Company. Yeah, dude, if these people can't get their shit together to where like they can't do anything without some guy holding a little wooden hammer, and like it just doesn't seem very serious to me. I understand that we have rules and they have to go by and but if they're so concerned of like who they're going to be and what committee they're going to be on, these people do not give a fuck about the people who voted for them. Clearly, they don't care. Yeah.
They might care about winning their next reelection, but they don't care about your feelings on the bills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're going to do just enough not to lose whatever it takes to win their election and reelection. That's it. You know what I mean?
So how do we, this is the part that boggles my mind. I've run in a congressional race. I'll probably do it again here next year. It looks like that we're going to get ballot access. How do we get through to people? Like you have congressional approval numbers at like the lowest levels they've ever been, but we're going to have probably an incumbency reelection rate of like in the high 90s, if not 100%.
Well, we need to continue the conversation like the ones we're having right now, and we need to find a broader audience in doing so. I would say if the politicians in the duopoly actually cared about you as an American, we would have 5 carrier groups and not 11. Because each one of those ships is a multi-billion-dollar ship surrounded by multi-million-dollar ships, surrounded by 5,000 Marines or 2 to 5,000 Marines that go along with them. And
then you wonder how many guns are on those carriers.
Well, the operator,
and we were going to talk. We were going to say I was attempting to segue into a firearm conversation, but
Well, we're going there. We're going there because as we're about to come to the final wrap up. And we're all going to go to the firearms conversation. But all I'm saying is if the American government and our American politicians really cared about us, we wouldn't need to project we could have a carrier group within your situation within 1 to 2 business days.
I mean, I think that like, again, if you had a domestic based defense approach, you probably could even have a bigger Navy than we have now and probably still spend half the amount of money.
I was thinking that earlier when
I think that you could probably get that done,
very easily. Yeah. And not to my guy Eric's service, but the U.S. Army is the 600-pound life person in a room because their budget is damn near unlimited compared to the Marines, the Navy, and the Air Force. The U.S. Army gets everything.
I mean, the Navy is up there in funding because of the cost of ships. Yeah. But the Army's got way more. They probably got about the same amount of personnel. Army and Navy.
What's interesting is the Marines actually got a battery of cruise missiles with a range of about 1,000 miles plus.
Yeah, that's crazy.
There's no reason why the Marine Corps needs to strike targets 1,000 miles away. Because
they need the most they need is a mortar tube, and that's it.
Yeah,
boom.
Or like that switchblade drone they have is pretty cool. Like that's a pretty neat squad deployed weapon. I mean, that's the
future, and that's what we're talking about because they don't need the Marines got rid of all their.
But Ukraine is doing the same thing with like a DJI Phantom and like a bottle filled with like tannerite. They're just dropping on people.
Yeah, they're taking out $30 million tanks with $45 worth of shit.
Yeah, man, and you want those Chinese drones so they don't have like the FAA connection. Them Wish.com drones. The Scientific Libertarian says we have enough nuclear warheads to destroy the planet 50 plus times. I'm not sure why 5 times wouldn't get the job done. Yeah, I mean, exactly. And I mean, the fact that you could deploy, I mean, a submarine is a hell of a weapon. And
yes.
because and the fact that you wouldn't know where it is, that's a really big, you can take out strategic targets, you can take out infrastructure, you can pretty much bring someone to your will pretty quickly if you're fighting a war, I think the smart way. We don't seem to kind of do that anymore. And it seems like you said, like we're just here's the guns, go. Here's the bombs to go. Yeah.
The United States Navy has I think between 12 and 16 ICBM nuclear subs. Each missile on there can have between 1 and 12 individually armed tactical nuclear weapons. So, and they carry between
and are those multiple re-entry vehicles?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
what's interesting is all that stuff's still classified. Like they say it can be between 4 and I was looking at the Russian ones. Okay, this scared the shit out of me. I was looking at the Russian SS 200 or something like that, and I was trying to look at the kiloton yield and megaton yield.
It's ridiculous what they could do.
And it said in one of the defense documents I was looking at, it said that it can have between 4 and 70. I was like, that's a very wide number.
That's a varied approach.
Yeah, I'm like, hold on, so is it 4? Or because 70 is a way bigger deal. I was doing the nuke map thing, and I was like, okay, if they ended up hitting Jacksonville Air Force Base in here, what is this looking like? And I was like, wait, they might have 70?
Yeah, you're toast because they're going to hit it with 2.
Yeah, I mean, 70.
If you live near an international airport or airport that can refuel bombers, anywhere between 20 to 25 miles, you're in the blast zone.
Yeah, I grew up in Shreveport Bossier. We had the B-52 8th Air Force there. It was a nuclear group, a strategic air command group, and the joke was at least we'll die quickly. Yeah.
I'm not gonna talk too much about the subject, but I will say only, anyways, that we used to be in the START treaty with Russia.
Yeah.
And since the Ukraine war popped off, that's been suspended or canceled.
That was a dumb thing too.
Yeah. So with that being
just saying, so
we're gonna get rid of our nukes. You promise you're gonna get rid of yours too? Yeah, we're gonna get rid of ours too, man.
So with all that being
over there.
Well, they would twice, I think 4 times a year, because we basically got 2 nuclear sub bases here in the United States, and they'd basically come and inspect those once or twice a year, and we would go over and inspect their bases once or twice a year. You know what I mean? You can read all about that on Wikipedia. That's all I'm going to say. I can neither confirm or deny the presence of anything.
It's a lot of there was a lot of theater there. There's a lot of theater with that one for sure.
Okay, so with nuclear war being on the horizon and us living in a Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome afterworld from the nuclear holocaust, what kind of firearms do you think the average American needs if they're going to make it through a nuclear wasteland?
Man, this is my favorite subject is to talk about this. When I used to drink and I'd sit around the campfire with my buddies and we just talk about guns for 2 hours. Yeah. Oh, dude, I'm a big revolver man. What is that? Is that a Smith & Wesson?
Ruger
Super 6?
SP 101 357.
Yep.
So, I knew we'd be talking about guns. I had to break a different one out.
Speaking of that, we have MIRA safety stuff and the guns. Yeah, I saw that Common Arms Trade Company had potassium iodine and all kind of stuff. So again, visit Common Arms Trade Company. They got all kinds of things. Yeah. Check them out. Use the promo code Black Powder. Save 10%. But definitely do some business with them. There's an ammo, Eric, a Liberty Civil Defense. I'll keep it in my 38. It's like a super low grain load, but it's super high velocity. I want to say that it does something insane. Check it out and see if they make it in 357. I think they do.
We need to check it out and see if they want to become a sponsor.
Yeah. They used to make a 308 round too. It was called Animal Instinct or Predator Instinct or something. It's no longer available. But it was a super high velocity 308 round that might be able to pop some plates. May or may not be able to.
Do you guys shoot 45?
I do. I have a 45. I have 2 45s.
Do you like 45 plus P? Because it's it's 11 to 1200 FPS versus the normal that's 8 to 900 FPS. I've talked to cops about this, and they like fat and slow because it does more damage. But wouldn't a little heavier weight at a higher FPS do more damage in case they were wearing armor or something like that?
I mean, you know, there's all these arguments about like what is what, you know.
Yeah.
I personally think that fast and frangible is like kind of what I'd want for like a predator, either 4-legged or 2-legged. You know, but I mean, 45, dude. I mean, dude, you get hit with a 45 at even at 700 feet per second, your day's probably over. Like, I mean, this is you're probably. I mean, I don't think you're getting out of the fight on that one, but I don't know, man. Marcus, you what? So you're a big SKS guy. That would be probably one of your recommendations, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And you wouldn't go AK, you go SKS.
Well, the thing about the SKS is it's more accurate, but the current legal statement here in California is maximum of 10 rounds plus 1 versus the AK-47, whether you got your magazines during Freedom Week, thank you, St. Benitez, here in California, where you can have a 30-round or a 100-round magazine. That seems to be more of a survival sense, because any conflict you can imagine, if you're a civilian and you think it's the end of the world, it's going to be similar to what it was in Iraq, where engagements are basically 50 meters, sometimes less, but you're not really going to have to touch out to 100+ meters in most scenarios that you can imagine domestically.
Yeah, so, I mean, most things domestically will be CQB, and if they're not, they're going to be like hunting rifle range, right? Like you're going to be
one or the other. It's going to be either 50 to 85 meters, or it's going to be 250 to 500 meters.
So Marcus, here's the question I'm going to ask for Eric too. The same question. Like it's happened, or it's happening. Like you've like it's happening. You got to grab like 2 guns, some ammo. That's what you're doing. So you're grabbing an SKS, and what are you grabbing? What's your sidearm? What are you grabbing?
That was for
Marcus.
You,
that was for you, Marcus.
Oh, my bad.
I was yes.
All right.
You need to,
So my three gun, if I could spit this out. Thanks, Swami. This is my 45 Glock 21 SF is my third. My secondary is my Mossberg 590A1, and my primary is my Adams Arm Piston AR.
Okay, all right.
I have a Bear Creek Arsenal AR-15. I'm grabbing it. 5.56 rounds should be popular enough to be able to find. If we're saying stuff hits the fan, apocalypse, zombie apocalypse, whatever you want to call it. I have probably going to grab a 9mm. I probably need to get a full-size one, but I'll stick with my Beretta Nano because it's what I got. I also got a Beretta 92FS, but
yep, great gun.
So probably stick with that.
One of my favorite guns of all time.
Probably go with that one over the concealed carry if it's crap hitting the fan. And I also have a Henry Auto Survival Rifle 22 LR. So those 3 right there. And I got 1,000 rounds of I got basically 1,000 rounds of 22 in that survival rifle in a bug out bag, ready to go at all times.
Just ready to go. Yeah. If I had to pick 3, so I'm picking 3 here. Sidearm, I'll start first. Probably I would go, even though I have a lot of pistols that I like, I would have to go just boring, 9mm Glock, full size, not the 43, but the full size, just because it's a ubiquitous gun. There'll be parts for it. There's a million bajillion of them out there. 9mm is super, super common, round. That'd be good. Man, I have debated in my head the 223, 556, 762, 39 thing over and over and over again. Ammo capacity, whatever else, Marcus, to your point of like, it's either going to be like right here or it's going to be way the fuck out there. Right. Yeah. I think that I would forego actually my AR and an AK, and I would grab probably a Ruger Scout, which is a box magazine fed bolt action 308 with a good optic. I have some 308 slap rounds as well that you can find. And those might be good for 2-legged predators that may be armored, right? That might be good to have that. And then I would definitely grab probably my Ruger 10/22 and have a couple thousand rounds that I can throw. That's good for pretty much game procurement, anything small. I mean, it could be used for defense if you wanted to. But I think that I'd feel better with reaching out and touch somebody. If like, if we're going to be in a situation where like people are shooting at me, I want to be shooting at me from way far away.
Yeah, that's the most ideal of situations.
Yeah.
I do have a Howa M1500 308 with a 22-inch heavy barrel and a Night Stalker scope on it, and it is also magazine fed, bolt action.
Right.
It's 10+1, which I find to be in my advanced age, I don't think I'm going to be running and gunning. And if I have a pair of binos and I could sit up in a place where you can't see me, but I could see your approach, that would probably be my first option. That would be after I spray paint in the nearest approaches, someone is watching you.
Yeah.
Because in Southern California, I think it's better to bug in and bug out. There's 15 million people surrounding me in the 4-county area. Going on the freeways, trying to get out of Dodge or whatever, is going to be a death trap. People are going to run out of gas. They're going to end up killing each other on the freeway. And for me, I see myself as a scavenger, and it's going to be a free-for-all because there's going to be some toys left behind, because eventually 80 to 90% of those people that are trying to bug out are going to end up bugging out of Earth. So I have plans. I have rally points with like-minded individuals locally where we're not going to be on freeways. We're going to be in the few green areas where we could fish and hunt nearby.
Where they might be crowded, though. I mean, you might be more crowded than you think.
Yeah.
I've always thought maybe the good thing for like suburban like that, where you're super like suburban, like very urban. I mean, is bug in for like be a real blackneck and bug in. There we go. I got to use it.
There you go. Yours out of the way.
Yeah, got it out of the way.
Bug in for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, and because 2 weeks, dude, that's good, man. 85% of people, I think, will be done with. They'll either be gone, dead, dehydrated, infected, shot themselves, starved, malnutrition.
Or being shot,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the real one. And if you can survive that, if you can, like, your home cannot be a target, if you cannot get burned out, if you can do that sort of thing for 2 weeks, I think that's kind of the thing,
Yeah, like figure out a way to get the vehicles out of your driveway, board up the windows and doors, make it look like if, we're used to hurricanes. So basically make it like hurricane preparedness, you know what I mean?
Right.
Have 2 weeks of food, 2 weeks of water, fill your bathtubs, you know what I mean? You're going to lose power. You know what I mean? So you might, if you don't got,
it's going to be uncomfortable, and you need to watch your footprint as well. Your audio footprint would need to be very low. I mean, you're talking about complete radio silence.
You can't really run a backup generator because people will hear it, and
it's like moss to a flame there, man.
You need solar.
Yeah, solar is the answer.
And see, that's also too why I like a 22 long rifle for a kind of survival situation is you have a very low report, right? So like, man, like my buddy has a Ruger Mark V with a suppressor on it, and like with the barrel length that it is, that round is essentially subsonic coming out of there. So it literally is, it's like almost, silent nearly, right? I mean, so you can drop some guys and nobody knows, because the last thing you want is like a mile away, someone's hearing a 308 pop off, like in your hallway. Yeah. Common Arms Trade Company, availability with no supply lines is definitely a consideration to have. Yep, absolutely. I like my 9mm M&P Shield from Smith & Wesson. Great pistol. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one of those too. That's a great everyday carry pistol, but the effective range is a little bit low. So it's
hold on, keep that one up right now. Hold on. Kenneth Blevins dropped in a 22 with a pop bottle and steel wool and an 11-inch Bowie knife if they make it within 650. So I think that he might be saying that might be a way to keep things quiet. We're not going to say that it is, but maybe
I don't know.
A possible way.
I think he was saying that it's a good way to take off the patina of his 22 with
right.
steel.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, you would cut the pop bottle open, and you would put it in the end of the barrel, and you put those steel wool in there, and that's going to make sure that it gets the patina. It's going to keep the end of the barrel from rusting, is what it's for. That's all for people. Yeah, it's not definitely. It's 100% not going to act as a suppressor in any way, shape, or form. That's not going to happen. Yeah,
I think we should retouch this topic on a whole episode soon as we wrap this up, as we're coming up on an hour and 5.
I'm good with that.
Just a reminder before you wrap up, can you hit that new?
Yeah. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, check out our new sponsor. Pull it up.
Can you pull it up? All right. So we got a new I guess partner. I don't want to say sponsor, but we're going to try and start shouting out libertarian, liberty-minded companies. If you have any local small companies, or they don't even got to be local, they don't even got to be small, but any company that we have their permission to give them a shout out, let us know. But this right here is 1776swag.com. So my man Mitch, he's here in Florida. He's a libertarian. He runs this website, and they got some pretty legit, pretty cool. It's not all just libertarian, but it's mostly liberty leaning and political. You know what I mean?
1 second. I thought I had the page up. I guess I accidentally closed it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some cool. There's a Bitcoin shirt, of course, Gadsden flag shirt.
I saw one and it had like Mises, but it was written in the font of Reese's, so like Mises pieces.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, 1776swag.com. Betsy Ross flag. Yeah, there you go. Abolish alphabet agencies. Yeah, so give them a visit, man. Anarchy Synthwave Tea and Cat Porcupine. Alex Jones was right.
Biden Fetterman.
Absolutely. Yeah. So whenever you are on the political spectrum, however much you want to, either infuriate someone or not, they probably got something for you here, as long as it's not over that way. So yeah, there we go. Bitcoin vaporware tea. I like that one, man. I like that synthwave one too with the Bitcoin.
Let's see what they have for the women, because that's one of our demographics that we really a lot of the.
We got a lot of women that watch and listen to us. Yeah.
Ladies,
well, I mean, look at us.
I mean, yeah, why would they not?
Yeah, there you go.
Well, the truth is, Eric, most of them actually listen. Is what happens later on F4. So they're probably actually just like, I can stand them if I don't have to look at them.
You're saying we got a face for radio?
I think so, yeah.
Speak for yourselves.
They got women's fitted tees down there on the bottom if you saw that. So yeah, definitely visit 1776swag.com. Check them out. We'll try to work out something with them, maybe on some promo codes here in a little while. But yeah, give them a visit. That's some cool stuff, man. I like that. Come and take it with the AK. Yeah, definitely. All right, gentlemen. So we're wrapping this discussion up here. We're coming up on an hour and 6. We try not to keep it too long. We got other things to do anyway. So we talked about Israel. We've talked about Speaker of the House. We talked about some gun stuff. Didn't have nearly enough time. I could spend more time talking about the gun stuff. And the bug out thing and all that. That'd be a fun episode to do. But anything else any burning desires to share? Is there anything else we got to have?
One more thing from Kenneth.
Shining up the bottom of a pop can for a fire. Yeah, there you go. See, you got to do that too, man. There you go. Yeah, you can do the little mirror thing, the Bear Grylls thing. Yeah.
I have one more thing to share.
Okay.
I want to send this out to all my fellow Americans. I hope you understand what this enterprise is all about. We are here to bring you liberty. There's going to be people that come on this show that you will probably disagree with. There will be subject matter that we bring on this show that you will probably disagree with. But the fact of the matter is, if you want a functioning republic, you got to be open-minded enough to at least listen. And you don't have to agree. But if we can't even listen to each other from an objective perspective, we're not going to have a country. And that's what the duopoly does. They separate us based on dogmatic bullshit that they have to, that they feel that they have to bring to you, because it's more about fear than good ideas anymore.
Are you prefiguring that we're going to have some controversial guests here in the next couple months?
Sure.
Yeah, 100%. There will be some controversial guests in the next couple months for sure. Eric, any burning desire to share here at the end of the broadcast?
I just want to remind everyone, Josh Smith wasn't here, and it was, I guess, issues outside of his control. Yeah. But we will be back Monday, right? That's the plan, guys.
That's the plan. The plan is Monday.
Be with us. Yes. He said, even if he's hoping he's feeling good by then. But I reminded him, like, he's coming to Jacksonville Saturday. We're having the Libertarian Party of Duval County. So if you're in the area within 3 hours of Jacksonville, you need to come to Jacksonville Blue Sky Golf Club. We're going to have 6 different libertarian candidates here for president. So
that's awesome.
Come hang out with us, but he'll be here. He said he hopes he feels good enough. I said, well, It's gonna be a heck of a ride if you don't feel good enough, because then you live in like Iowa or something.
Are y'all going to be like doing like a live stream of that or anything? Like,
yeah, it'll be live streamed. So go if you want to follow that, or if you want to check in, if you could drive to it or show up.
So Libertarian Party of Duval County. Okay,
we'll be doing a live stream. So
find them on Twitter, find them on Facebook.
There's gonna be a lot of fun. They got a promo. We're gonna have it's kind of like a redneck Top Golf for 2 hours, or 2 golf bays for 2 hours, and then from 7 to 9 you'll be able to meet the candidates. We're gonna let them all speak, and then we're gonna play recordings of other candidates outside of the Libertarian Party.
Okay.
Making statements and have them respond to those.
That's going to be great. Yeah. So this will be live streamed though too for those of us that can't make it. I'm assuming I can just go to the Duval County Libertarian Facebook and it will be there is where I can watch the live stream.
Okay, that is the goal. If it isn't live stream, it'll be recorded, but the goal is to have it live streamed. So you got all that.
So you got Lars, you got Josh. You got
Lars, Chase, Josh, Reckdenwald, some guy I've never heard of.
In Termont? Is Termont going to be there too?
In Termont, yeah. Okay. So
I like Termont.
Okay. The guy I've never heard of
is Jacob?
I guess they're like he's from South Carolina or North Carolina.
Is it Jacob Hornberger or
No, not Hornberger.
Okay.
We invited everyone, and everyone that can make it is making it.
We need to get Jacob on too. We need to have him on as well because we can run the gamut. But that'll be interesting, man. I'm looking forward to seeing that. The only burning desire that I have is make sure that you like and share this. Help us get past the algorithms here. We'd really appreciate that. Be sure to visit our sponsor, Common Arms Trade Company. They do a great business. They have pretty much anything that you really want or things you don't want. Sometimes the best thing that you can do, guys, is you can just go on there, and girls go on there and just say, "Hey, look around. Maybe I need this." You'll be surprised what you might find that you want. And remember, firearms are an investment. Okay, they're an investment. Don't feel bad about spending money on firearms and ammunition. It is an investment in your future. Trust me. If things go bad, every dollar in your bank account doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But yeah,
more valuable than lead if shit goes wrong.
Absolutely, 100%, man. So thanks for listening to us. We really appreciate it. Marcus, you want to take us off the air?
Yeah, we're gonna shout out 1776 Swag.
That's right.
Coming on board the Firearms Network. I want to thank my co-hosts, my brothers in arms, my brothers in liberty, Michael White, Eric Parker. We only do this for the right reasons. And I wouldn't have asked these guys to come on with me if it weren't for them doing things for the right reasons. So
thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much. I'll ask all of you, and we say this together as we wrap up this episode of the Black Powder Podcast: live free
or die. There we go. You live free or die. And then we have the awkward break between us saying that and then Marcus ending the broadcast. So yes,
I blame it on your lack of rhythm.
Yeah,
I'm waiting on Michael.
I had my internet you blocked out for a second, so don't blame me. I got good rhythm, man.
That's your problem too, because I think you people invented the internet. So
what do you mean, you people?
Yeah, take care, guys. Appreciate you tuning in to the Firearms Radio Network, Black Powder Podcast.
You people live free or die.